Well, hi, Week in the Tacklers. It's the Week in the Tackle podcast, the podcast where we get together on a weekly basis and tackle things from the world of football and or soccer that we thought were interesting. I'm Tom Rennie. Alongside me is top broadcaster, MLS legend, and a man with the same hair as Bond, James Rodriguez. It's Brian Dunny Dunseth. Hello, buddy. You all right?
My hair is nowhere near the quality of James Rodriguez. That is the best head of lettuce in the game. But I appreciate you trying to tie that together. By the way, happy birthday, my man. Happy 40th birthday to Tom Rennie. You are now amongst the elites, or at least what I would like to say the 40-year-olds, because I only have another year and a month left before I will be departing. So let's enjoy it while we may.
Quite a lot. So we're co-40s for the first show ever.
Yeah, we're equals.
We're equals now in the eyes of our Lord for the first time ever, which is great, which is exciting news.
Big stretch.
Sorry I couldn't turn up last week. I had a slight heart problem, which is only sort of solved. So, hopefully I'll keep on living.
I was going to let you bring this one up. I'm glad that you're okay.
Thank you.
We were worried about you. We went dark for a week. We didn't do last week's show. I am just happy that you are feeling better and on the mend. So
yes, I had a good 70 hours in the care of the National Health Service, and all the individuals tried their best. But I would say they need some funding. Some funding would be good. Some funding and organization.
You could be like over here. You could pay the $2,400 a month that I got to pay for my family's insurance, where you could have immediacy.
I mean, to be fair, it's been so. I mean, I'm short a few scans, so I'm starting to think it's not the worst thing ever. But anyway, there you go. I'm all right so far. I've continued to live, and I'm on lots of many drugs, and so we'll just see if that helps to get through today's show or not.
Morphine is fun.
Morphine's great. This is something I've discovered. I'm super into morphine, and I wish I didn't have to get prescribed it, but I've very much enjoyed it. Are we excited? So the Super Bowl happened. I know nothing of the Super Bowl, but I did want to mention this because I don't know if this is significant or not. It was won by a team called the Seattle Seahawks. Is that a bird? Is it a plane? I don't know. But apparently a guy called Aiden Durd, or Durder, I'm going to say Aiden Durd, made history on Sunday as maybe the only person that actually watched the match and not the halftime show, literally scrolling all morning just to... I wasn't trying to see who won, but one assumes you would just check it out. If the AFCON happened, you're like, oh, look, won by Senegal. No one's talking about who won. No one's talking about any element of the match at all. All about what's his chops and whatever song he sung. But Aiden, I'm sure it was. Aiden Durd made history. The 46-year-old from Middlesex, the defensive coordinator. You can tell me if that's good or not, or what the equivalent would be. He is the first British person to be awarded some sort of Super Bowl. Did you get a trophy? But not only that, big West Ham fan.
Oh.
Big West Ham fan, Aiden Durr, which is the only reason I care about this. Apparently he watched the 1985 Super Bowl in Middlesex, got super into it, joined the London Warriors in 2011, and has gone on to become the first British full-time coach in NFL history, and has now gone on to win a superb owl. So there you go. Thoughts?
Yeah, very cool. Poor guy. Stuck with a relegation-battled West Ham, who has now entered the race. Good morning, Tottenham Hotspur. Nice to see you again. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm led to believe the coach of the New England Patriots is a Spurs fan. So that in the end, we won that one. Am I going to win this one as well? I don't know if that's true. I like your face there, like it as a real thing. I don't know. Right. Loads of things to talk about in the world of football. Before we do, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe on Spotify. If you're listening as a podcast, we know for a fact, a statistical fact, that if you're listening as a podcast, not all of you are subscribed on YouTube. We know that. So if you're listening as a podcast, head over to YouTube now. We'll give you a sec. Thank you for subscribing to the program. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi guys. My camera's moving around today to make me seem cool. We'll give you a sec if you're on YouTube to go over to Apple or to Spotify and sign up. Hold on.
Your camera is mimicking Nuno Espirito Santo's substitution pattern.
Yes.
Slightly delayed.
Just slightly behind when it should have happened.
Yeah. To the new assistant coach that keeps screaming, "What are you doing? Don't do that."
You know that's Max Kilman, right? Don't do that. That's Max Kilman. Anyway, let's start with the top story of the week, and that is Man City having an all-is-lost moment against Liverpool after Dominik Szoboszlai's bendy walloper, which I'm calling it, which I enjoyed, of a free kick.
A good goal, yeah.
Outstanding free kick at the Cobham, which we thought would get them the win. And then Man City, despite the issues they have had of, unlimited money, which is a big problem, they still found a way to mount an incredible comeback. Another late goal conceded by Liverpool to lose a game. Like fourth time it's happened this season, 90th minute plus, they've conceded a winner to the opposition. Let's start with the Man City of it. It seemed like it was over, but 6 points behind, it still feels like a mountain the way they're currently playing.
Yeah, listen, I think for Man City, first off, Gahey, what a huge addition. And I saw a stat that Gahey in the last 12 months has defeated Liverpool on now 4 occasions, 3 times with Crystal Palace and now 1 time with Man City. And I was just shuddering thinking about whoever was in charge at Liverpool and the Liverpool board that just didn't give that a little extra more of some cash, that performance, because I thought Gahey in the isolating moments, whether it was Gakpo or his Ekitike, his defending was superb and his blocks and everything. Donnarumma's feet are so much better than he gets credit for. I mean, he was picking out players and chipping balls, and he was under pressure, looked fantastic. That reaction save at 1-1 was phenomenal up to his right-hand side. So as we kind of like talk about all this, I think it's important to recognize there's a couple really important moments, because I think we can encapsulate both of these teams at the same time. And we heard this from Arne Slot after the match, talking about moments in which Liverpool had calls go against them in this season. And we had heard, and I had the Diogo Dalot challenge on Doku a couple of weeks ago in the Manchester derby.
Definite red.
With now Pep Guardiola at the time, publicly talking about different moments. And we do this thing where if there are manager, like, see, that was a red, that should have been this, that should have been that, VAR should have intervened. And then from the outside, everyone's like, dude, shut up. Everyone's had calls go against you. Stop moaning. So I'm very, and listen, I was in a no-win situation as a Manchester United supporter, because if Liverpool wins, that effectively gives the title to Arsenal. If Man City wins, that is a good thing because Liverpool still stays in 6, but then Man City creates a little bit more of a gap away from Aston Villa and Manchester United for trying to maintain a spot in Champions League finish. And so as I'm watching the game, I'm taking it in for a neutral. I think there was a couple moments. I think Konate's grab on Marmoush is a penalty.
Yeah.
It's just a penalty. I think Gahey's very well executed time tug of the jersey then opens up, I think, an opportunity or at least a conversation about Dogso. And this is where it's subjective. If I'm Liverpool, I want a red card, 100%. If I'm Man City, I'm saying recovering defender and goalkeeper with that touch, they're going to get there. That's not clear and evident Dogso. So again, you get caught in this subjective nature of a conversation. The moment that Alisson wipes out Erling Haaland, first instinct, penalty. That's for me as a broadcaster, penalty, 100% a penalty. So I never hesitated, and I always felt it was going to be a pen. By the way, Szoboszlai's goal is one of the best free kicks we're going to see in the modern game. But the moment he went, clipped it, did that, all of a sudden his defensive performance just disappeared because he got hung on Bernardo Silva. And this is a byproduct of playing a midfielder as a right back where they're just instinctually not staying with the line. Happens all the time. Even though I thought as a performance as a right back, he was excellent up until that moment. And then you get down to that final moment where I feel bad for Ryan Cherki, because I'm thinking about bonus structure. I'm thinking about boot deal bonus. I'm thinking, but then about Manchester City losing that goal, which could be a decider if the title race comes down to the nitty gritty, that final little moment of goal differential conversation that aligns with points. And then I'm thinking about the true value of the goal, the game's put to bed, versus the weight of a red card, because I literally started texting my friends saying, Szoboszlai is going to be sent off.
Yeah.
If VAR intervenes, Szoboszlai's off. Because the moment that he looked back at the ref, like, no, he fouled me. I was like, dude, cut your losses. Cut your losses.
Walk away.
Because if this would have been like Liverpool was up 2-1, and this would have negated a goal for Man City to equal, then you Luis Suarez the ish out of it and you walk away, and then it's like, oh, smart. He just say, he got us 3 points. Versus this one,
silly.
It doesn't. Because then I'm thinking to myself, you've got 3 things at play, right? You have VAR intervention, where now they have the opportunity and give credit to Craig Pawson, because I don't think he wanted to give the red card. I think in the spirit of the game and in the moment of the game, he keeps the whistle out of his mouth. He sees two things lead up to the ball going over the end line. He decides that's a goal because they basically cancel each other out. The goal scored, the game's over, it's done and dusted. And then knowing that VAR is going to take a look at it no matter what. But the moment where Szoboszlai kind of plays the ref like, no, he fouled me, I could have got to that ball, then VAR is going to have to say, hold on a second. In the attacking phase of play, when that ball is hit, how does Szoboszlai get the first tug of the jersey? Because then in kind, Haaland tugs Szoboszlai's jersey and they go to ground. I think the moment he goes to the monitor, he has to technically make the correct call, which is what he does.
Can I ask you a question on this?
Yeah.
Why is it not a goal as well as a red card? Why has it got to go back to the infringement, considering they let it play out? I don't think there's a whistle in the game. So why does the goal get disallowed? Because I just feel like the goal's the goal. And I just think it's a perfectly fine goal. There was a foul in the build-up. And if it was a different kind of foul and not something so sort of weird and unique, you'd let the goal stand and then you go back and look at it anyway. So why have we got to go back to that point?
The way, and I could be wrong, I probably am wrong. The way it was said to me was that because it wasn't Erling Haaland's shot, that it was Ryan Cherky's shot, and they were two players stretching to get to the end of it, that the foul happens before the contact of the ball of the attacking player.
Right. Okay.
So it was the pull of the jersey, which is insinuating that Erling Haaland was then going to tap the ball in and not wait for it to roll over the line the way it did unimpeded, because the way that Szoboszlai grabbed the first jersey and then in turn Haaland grabs the jersey as well, that these two players, he's denying an obviously goal-scoring opportunity because Haaland has the angle, has the pace, he's through on goal, he's going to tap it in. That's the way it was explained to me, but I could be wrong.
Doesn't it then go back to a conversation we've had previously, which goes back to an oft-picked-up conversation we've had here, which I'll do again if we go down and Forest stay up, which is they're trying to find ways to disallow that goal. You have to actively find that interpretation of these events. Like, I'm fine with the red card. I'm absolutely fine with it. Like, it's a clear foul. It's a clear red. It's a clear dogzo, whatever. I think that's absolutely fine. But if this goal was consequential, which it ended up sort of not being, you mentioned it might be in terms of goal difference later in the season, they've actively had to find a pathway to disallow that. And I feel like you could easily interpret the rules differently. Let's say Haaland decided to protect the ball. Yeah. And he could say, I'm going to do that. And if that's the case, it should be given as a goal. So it feels like fundamentally there should be a conversation in that VAR room, which they're never happening. Or never having, which is, how do we give this goal? And that is another example of how do we disallow this goal to make sure it fits this narrow interpretation of the laws.
Yeah, and I take that full on board. And that's why I tried to arc this conversation with Konate on Marmoush, with Guehi on Salah, and then Alisson's challenge on Erling Haaland. Because I think if you have aggressive VAR, there's a penalty in favor of Manchester United for Konate two-hand grab, toss, Marmoush going to the ground. I think you have an argument about Guehi being dog-so foul outside the penalty area because of the angle that Mo Salah has, which inevitably was Arne Slot's conversation post-match. And then you kind of get into the nuance of, okay, if Alisson makes that tackle in any part of the field, that is going to be a foul in favor of Erling Haaland. So if it is indeed inside the penalty area and Erling Haaland takes his touch at that angle, is that a true goal-scoring opportunity? Or are you saying, listen, that's a goalkeeper going to ground, and as the ball is off and away from the attacking player, there's a coming together. This is, again, you have the words that are on IFAB's paperwork. You have the interpretation of what is Howard Webb and his group, his staff, and then you have the execution of this. But in the execution, you then have this very nuanced conversation about subjectiveness and human error, application of the law. So I think in all of these four incidents, you can theoretically find a way to disallow what would be a goal and or allow for a goal to be given based on but this is the tribalism of football, man. This is what it comes down to. And by the way, if you are Szoboszlai, what's your responsibility in that moment to avoid getting a red card, knowing that that goal really wasn't going to matter, even though you were trying to keep your team in the game. And or if you're Sunderland's leadership group and that red card's not given, if I'm a part of that leadership group, the first thing I do is pick up the phone to Howard Webb going, how in the sorry, Tim, was he not given a red card?
Yeah.
Because they need any advantage they can possibly have when they play Liverpool midweek.
They kind of do, but Sunderland are sort of irrelevant, right? In that,
no,
you know,
I understand. But again, my point being a trickle-down effect. There's always a trickle-down effect. Yeah,
exactly. But I take that point. But I do think the whole, like, you know, in the end, you got to call the game as it is, and the consequences, consequences. You know, I just think it was a weird decision. Let's go back to the Dominik Szoboszlai free kick. Now, I used to love taking a free kick and love taking a penalty, but of course, I haven't played professionally like you. So tell us a bit about this technique here. I saw a couple of people comparing it to the famous Roberto Carlos 1998 free kick in the way that it kind of swings in and out. I saw a couple of Dimitri Payet free kicks in person, which are sort of jaw-dropping in their technique. A couple of suggestions that maybe the no wall didn't work.
The two-man wall versus
the two-man wall,
yeah.
But like a huge gap for him to sort of aim at. And if you could banana swing it in this way, then it didn't work, and it didn't. Give us your view on the technical execution of this free kick. And it's not the first one he's done, not of this style, but the way he's striking free kicks in from this sort of distance, the power he's getting from 35 plus yards is kind of insane.
So I think there's a couple things at play. Number one, I think that Dominik Szoboszlai has shown this season in particular how brilliant he is with the consistency of his free kicks. And even the ones that he's missed, he has not missed by much. So you start to put him in that category of the way that he's striking the ball, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, those ones that kind of have that flat hit. But it seemed like he hit it flat, but he somehow generated more spin with the outside of his right foot as he was coming through it. So a couple things at play. Donnarumma probably wishes he had another defender in the wall or two more defenders in the wall. Because what happens is Ruben Dias is actually, it was really interesting when you go back and you watch the setup of the wall. You've got two players to the left. Ruben Dias is behind, I think it's Cody Gakpo, who you've got two Liverpool guys that are sat off, maybe offset to kind of create a little bit more of a sideline for Donnarumma. But what happens is I think as they're trying to create that invisibility moment for Donnarumma to see where the ball's coming off his foot, because Tony Meola, I've talked to Tony Meola about this many times. He said in that split second as the ball comes off, someone striking their foot, after it comes off, if you're behind the wall, if you don't see it immediately, then you've got to stop your anticipation. You kind of go for reaction. So you're kind of like, you're waiting and you're a bit late. So you want to have some type, that's why they're always leaning, trying to find the sight line. Right. I think actually Ruben Dias does a disservice to Donnarumma because I think as he's trying to come across and push Gakpo out of the way, that creates more of just legs and bodies coming across. Now on top of that, I mean, he smacks the living hell out of that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in his run up is like 5 to 6 steps, but when he hits it, he hits it so hard. Donnarumma, whether he doesn't see it or he can't react, either way he doesn't move. And I just pulled it up once again to see the way he hit it, and by the way, he lands on his right foot. So as he strikes through it, he's creating a cutting motion to then land on his right foot and stay away from his plant foot. So technique, outstanding. And again, I almost wish that this was the game winner that we're talking about, because it would do the justice to what a phenomenal free kick it was. Not snap of the fingers, the mistake holding him onside, and then subsequently the red card challenge that took him off.
Great example in a game where you can go from hero to villain in such a short space of time. It was about 30 minutes in the end, wasn't it, with the 30 minutes added on? But
and I
it's
believe
a great
that's
free
two
kick.
Free kick. Isn't that he score another free kick?
It's 4 for the season in all competitions. There was the Arsenal one in August.
Yeah,
there's
and then
the
he
Newcastle
did Newcastle
one in August.
Yeah,
and there's another one under the wall, which was Champions League, I think, wasn't it? When he put it under the wall, and Inter maybe was the other one. Which is a very different type of free kick. I think it was anyway. We'll double check it. But anyway, 4 this season. Just one final bit on that. Carabag. Sorry, I knew it was one of the Champions League.
Inter was Arsenal.
Yeah,
that's why.
That was it. The other bit was going back to what you're saying about the wall. I'll never forget this. I'm sure we mentioned this before. Alan McLaughlin, our old mate from Premier League Live, the former Ireland midfielder, when he was coaching at Portsmouth and I was working with him, and he said to me once, I would never do a wall. I would never do a wall under any circumstances in any game.
We had this conversation last year. There's a group of us that were in this. Taylor Twellman, Mo Adu, who else? There was like 4 of us in this chat, and we were saying, because somebody did it to in Portland with Gareth Bale at the end of his LAFC. And so we were nobody did a wall. And Gareth Bale walked up and he's like, I just have it pop a goal. And we're like, well,
did he score? Did he score?
No, I don't believe he scored. But it was almost like the reverse psychology of like, well, now you've got to recalculate how you're going to hit it. Yeah. Because you have this like, you have this repetitive approach of, okay, got to find the ball. Got to find a little nubby. Got to set the nubby at a certain angle. Gonna step back 2 feet. Gonna step over right. Take a deep breath, and then I know that I'm gonna strike the ball up because the wall has to make it. And you visualize this trajectory of getting the ball over the wall to then dip, which then creates that much more havoc. Versus all of a sudden it's like, well, I just now shoot it. Like the way Dominik Szoboszlai just shot it. Like now I just shoot it, hit the living crap out of it. But if Donnaruma's not dealing with anybody in front of him, well, he's
not over on that side, is he? He's in the centre.
He's more centered, so you like his
maybe
chances.
Even stepping out a bit.
Yeah, no, we debated this and we laughed and we were howling and calling each other idiots, and we went to the All-Star game. It was actually at the All-Star game. Now I remember in DC when Arsenal was playing. We were all like busting each other's balls about it. It was a fun conversation.
Oh, you must have not invited me to that, mate. I must have been somewhere else doing something else.
I think you were outside watching Declan Rice trot onto the field in his Arsenal kit for the first time.
No, I was with you for that, as I recall.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And,
that's right.
You were
a young little gazelle, little gazelle.
But I do wonder if no wall would have helped. Anyway, we'll never know.
I do also wonder whatever happened to the money that West Ham got for Declan Rice.
They signed Edson Alvarez, and he was good. Anyway, let's get to. I want to ask you about Tottenham.
Yeah.
Another loss for them. An extraordinarily bad run of form at this point. A loss to Man United, who are a bit resurgent. So again, let's not be too like wild on the criticism. But yet another loss for them, and the run of form now has got so bad that realistically, Nottingham Forest and West Ham, as the kind of only 2 that I think are left in a relegation battle, are sort of looking at them thinking they're dropping like a stone here. It's 3 points in the last 6 games. It's 3 defeats in that last 6. It's 10 defeats all season. Same amount as Leeds. Same amount as Newcastle and Brentford. It's only a couple more than Nottingham Forest. Newcastle to come on Tuesday before the FA Cup break. Cristian Romero's off, so he's out for the next 4 games. With look, I think it's a red card. I'd love your view on it, but I think it is. Even though other decisions should also have been reds, including that you mentioned Manchester Derby a couple of weeks ago, but there was one in like was it the Everton game maybe this weekend that also could have been a red for similar, and that's why you need a VAR czar, and that's why you need consistency and all that sort of stuff. But I think there's no defence that it should only have been a yellow. Someone was like, oh, it's an orange. No, it's a red. But it feels like free fall. It feels like free fall right now for Tottenham. What happens? Give us a little look ahead, a Mystic Meg for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Like, how much trouble are they in?
They're in a ton of trouble. I mean, it's weird. We're doing this thing where we're trying to say, hold on a second, they're amazing in Champions League. But you could also dig into the nuance of the conversation about the opponents in Champions League, about the group stage in Champions League, as well as the benefit of some of these calls that have gone against them. Like Svensson, that wasn't a red card for Dortmund. And yet Tottenham found themselves playing up with a man for 70 minutes. So the circumstances have certainly benefited them in the Champions League, whereas in the Premier League, I think I mean, I'm going to try to build, like, for me, my own looking glass of when I see Tottenham, because now Cristian Romero is out for 4 games, signed a new 4-year deal, obviously coming off the backside of being the hero in the previous 7 games for the 5 goals that he scored that has kept the team in multiple competitions and game winners at that. And then on top of that, the public criticism that came out with his Instagram post, where then Thomas Frank is dancing around I've got to be the hero and I've got to keep him on side. I can't lose the locker room right now because it's already on a knife's edge. Well, was he suspended or was he fined? And how did you handle that behind the scenes? Because this is your captain. I think all of this in conjunction now with the red card makes it that much more difficult to kind of spin the yarn that everything is okay. And that's what Thomas Frank is trying to do. To be clear, I have an affinity and a love affair for Argentine center backs. I love Lisandro Martinez. I love Cuti Romero. I love Nicolas Otamendi. If you go down the laundry list, even back to Pochettino, as a former center back, there is something about the way Argentine center backs play that I've always had a soft spot for.
Yeah, it's called dirty as. Sorry, Tim.
It's the Dunsethery, the dark arts. So now
No,
Cuti.
I got it right. You can just say it.
Cool. Whatever. I mean, potato. But the upcoming games, here's Tottenham's schedule. Newcastle United, Arsenal, away at Fulham, home against Palace, away against Liverpool, home against Forest, away against Sunderland.
There's a couple of winnables. There's winnables in there.
Potentially, yeah. And by the way, I thought Xavi Simons was the best performance I've seen him have for Tottenham, because there was like an emphasis and a desire to be the guy. And up until that red
like
card,
playing violin when the Titanic went down.
yeah, maybe, but it sounded great. I thought United first 15 minutes dominated. I thought then all of a sudden Tottenham really got their claws into the game. And this is where I feel bad for Cuti Romero, is because individually, if you go back in that play, the way he wins the ball is fantastic. And he does a little pirouette to get himself out of trouble. And I've been in this situation where I call it a touch tackle. All of a sudden, you get away, and as the ball kind of gets, you get away from the defender or the midfielder, and you kind of spin into space, and all of a sudden, Casemiro's there. And this is me, again, my humble opinion. When I would go into 50-50 challenges, you kind of jump into the challenge because you don't want to get sorry, Tim. Like, you don't want you to get your ankle broken. You don't want to like just get done. You don't want to cartwheel. You have to be so strong in your body in that moment that you were like going into a car accident, like you're bracing for it. And I think as he's bracing for it, there's a couple things at play. This could be Argentina, Brazil. This could be Spurs against Man United. This could be just the guy in front of you. I'm going to break you. We have all been taught as players that you got to go hard. You got to go strong. In the modern game, he's not going to get away with it. So this is his responsibility. But the game that we came to love, these are the type of challenges that were phenomenal. Good old, strong, natural 50-50. He caught him, and it looks worse on video than it would be in real time. Yeah. The first thing I texted the Tottenham Lunacy group, to Heads, to Gabe Ortiz, and to Lucas is straight red. And Lucas is one of the Argentine brothers that I grew up watching Argentina with in my high school days. And we both agreed it was a red card. I still take all this outrage about Cuti. Oh, he's got to be a leader. Oh, he's got to be a captain. Oh, he's got to keep himself on the field. I agree with that 100%. But the reality is, say like, oh, they've got to move on from him. Oh, you got to make a statement. You got to drop him. He's lost your trust. That's fucking lunacy. Sorry, Tim. Because only he and Mickey Van de Ven have been the consistent performers all season long. Yeah. And Mickey Van de Ven probably wants to leave at this stage. So he's got a very interesting, and by the way, we haven't even gone into this, but Daniel Levy out the door, thinking about Enoch and the Lewis family running things, Vanai coming over from Arsenal, Lang coming over from Aston Villa, Thomas Frank coming from Brentford. The amount of money that they spend is really extraordinary, but we don't reference point it as much as we talk about what's happening at Liverpool, because it's just a difference of size of clubs and expectations. Through all of this, you now have to figure out a very nuanced conversation about, is now the time, with watching Rolling Back the Good Vibes with Manchester United and Michael Carrick versus Ruben Amorim, and we call it Independence Day, 6 weeks on from, dude, I got to find these quotes because they are, it irritates okay.
From Amorim.
6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We ended an era. Come on, hurry up, load. Quote, relegation is a responsibility. We got away from, we have the worst Premier League team we have the worst team in Premier League history.
Yeah.
Quote, we have to suffer as we grow. No, not even the Pope can make me change my system.
Oh,
Mainu's competing with Bruno for the same position.
Well, weird. Just weird.
I was employed to be a manager, not a coach.
Nope.
So, yeah, just to show you
It can make a difference, changing the
It
manager.
can, and I know we'll
It
get
can.
United, but I also
Would you
think
do it?
like
Would you do it though? Like, would you change Frank now? Would you bring Big Ange back for some fun?
no. I know. I think it's Ryan Mason, Johnny Heitinga. Going back.
Do you think an interim would do the difference? Teddy Sheringham
here,
to the end.
here's what I don't. This is what I don't know. Right?
Kev Watson to do it. I'd get him on the phone. Yeah, do it.
Ryan Mason's already done it. What 3 times?
Yeah.
When you talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you talk about Michael Carrick, you even talk about Ruud van Nistelrooy. In the timeline where then you try to change the structure, the mentality, the cultural look, the feel, all of this stuff. Maybe sometimes it's and the track record of Tottenham Hotspur with smaller managers / bigger managers has not been great since Mauricio Pochettino's left. So at some point,
he wasn't a big manager as well when he came in. He was he made himself a big manager at Tottenham.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's Spaniol to Southampton to Tottenham. So obviously, in terms of consistency of performance, there's something that hasn't matched what the ambition of the fan base looks like. They think they are a Champions League club, which they are currently by virtue of winning Europa League and beating Manchester United. They're also the same team that's in the same position that they were last year with a new manager, a hybrid of a new coaching staff, adding Johnny Heitinga, and then the incredible amount of money that they've spent and or dealing with these injuries that it's the same criticism I've had with teams that have dealt with injuries in the last couple of years is what is your training regimen? What is happening behind the scenes? Yeah. And ultimately, how do you keep these players back healthy, fit, and proper? And the dynamic of Manchester United is different because you have all week, because you're out of all the other competitions. Yeah. But you knew planning-wise that you were going to be in all these competitions and there was a chance that you could succeed in Champions League. So the one thing I'll say is when I look back and watching the Premier League, I never thought that a club like Newcastle would be relegated in multiple occasions. I never thought the size of a club like Aston Villa would be relegated. I never thought that a Leeds United would find themselves yo-yoing back and forth and just looking for stability. The idea of a massive club failing isn't new to anybody. And it was only 10 years ago that Leicester City won the Premier League and had Champions League football. And we were singing the praises of Brendan Rodgers and everybody associated with the investment in the infrastructure with a training facility that was absolutely world class. And now where do they find themselves sitting? So through all of this, this is a really perilous kind of moment right now because with the competitions they find themselves remaining in and the injuries that they're dealing with, and what is going to be most important, the spirit of the squad.
Yeah.
The spirit of the squad, and if they're taking on Thomas Frank, because this isn't bullet points. This is have to do everything correct to make sure that they can pull themselves away from this conversation. And doing it now without Cristian Romero with these injuries, upcoming Newcastle, Arsenal, Fulham, Crystal Palace, and then they'll get Cristian Romero back for Liverpool. And by the way, he's really close to a yellow card accumulation ban on the backside of this. So it's not going to get any easier.
He's definitely going to get that. I mean, I think the two things that I would just say on that is that any club that's not in that top 6 in terms of revenues is only one bad season away from never being back in the top 6 again. Spurs were always the 6th of the top 6, and I would suggest they've been usurped financially by Newcastle and on the field by Aston Villa, which puts them 8th of a top 8 at this moment in time, and it's only going to get harder and harder and harder. And if you're not in that group, you look at Leicester, you look at West Ham currently, you look at Wolverhampton Wanderers, you look at Southampton, you are only 2 bad transfer windows away and 1 bad season away from being in catastrophic trouble. And that's where they currently find themselves. And look, I still think that it'll be West Ham from the 3, but I've said for a long time, any team in that group who can win 5 in a row, if you can win 5 in a row in this league, you'll go up 3 to 5 places. Yeah. And that's always been true. They've won 3 of 4. They probably should have won 5 of 7 in that run. We don't know how the Man United game has gone yet before we get to the FA Cup break. But I do think there is something going on at West Ham which suggests that they know the trouble they are in and they have been building to this final 10 games for basically 20 games. Building to a run where they know they've got to do something extraordinary, which they nearly did at Chelsea.
That's why I don't think Fulham, Palace, and Forest, man, those are huge 6-point swings.
I just don't think that Spurs have been building to it. And I think that is again, it would take West Ham doing European qualification form, but Dunny, it makes a difference, doesn't it? The mentality of the team building up to that moment.
3 wins in the last 5 matches. Nuno.
Yep.
Don't put Max Kilman in. Okay.
Don't put Max Kilman in. When they were 2-0 up against Burnley at the weekend and cruising, they were fantastic in that. I know Burnley are crap. They're absolutely fantastic. But then Burnley got on top, same as Chelsea the previous week. I know there's a massive difference. But I was just in my hospital bed thinking, for goodness sake, put Potts into the actual gap where you could see the gap. And last week he went, anyway.
Tati got his goal, though. Are you liking Tati?
Yeah, it looks good. Works hard. It looks like a good. It looks like a good championship forward. He works really hard. I think next season. Nice. No, I mean that in a complimentary way. I think next year in the championship he'll score 25 goals and they'll win the league if he was there. I think that's how good he is. I think in the Premier League he's 10 goals, which is fantastic for a crap team. But look, Somerville's in amazing form. Bowen is always a great player and can turn it on. Tati can actually run. The three look good.
Hermansen? You like Hermansen in goal?
Not really. I mean, he played fine in this game. I will say. I mean, but I think Disasi is smart, and I'm quite pleased with that. I think Disasi and Tadibo, if he comes back, stops strangling people, could look quite.
And he doesn't have to move. Disasi doesn't have to move. Keeps house.
Just tackle and clear it. And clear it. I mean, if they beat Man United on the Tuesday, people probably would have heard this, and the game's happened. If they're able to win that game, which is a terrible time to play Man U, but again, Man U could say it's a terrible time to play West Ham, considering they've been so easy to beat all season. If they can win that and win the next one, might be Palace, I'll have to double check it, that's when I'd be interested. If they lose to Man United and Forest have got Wolves and it's 6 points, I still think it's very unlikely.
You've got United away at Burton, home against Bournemouth, away against Liverpool, away against Fulham, home against City, away against Villa.
But I think you've got to win, Forest are where they are because they won at Liverpool.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
You got to pick some points off. Yeah.
You're no longer in. If you're that team, you're no longer in you just got to beat you're expected to beat. You've got to pull off a big win. You've got to beat Liverpool.
Let's not do it for the sake of the United Strand's hair. Let's not do it this week, huh?
Let's do it this week. On Man United, I did want to ask you briefly about them before we're out of time. Last bit for today. We've done a lot on the resurgence, but I wanted to ask you about one thing specifically, and it's more broad to the season. Wasn't it great to watch a corner scored by a team where it didn't look like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan? Wasn't it great to see a corner taken where it wasn't just disgustingly ugly and Saliba fouls the goalkeeper and they lump a bunch of big geese at the back post to head home and there's loads of fouls and
Training
pulls
ground.
And spits and pinches and dancethery and needling. It was just a really clever...
There's nothing wrong with that.
Actual football move. I feel like this entire season has been so ugly. Yeah. It's been so unappealing to watch. So much of the football this season. Even to our previous conversation about West Ham, how have things got better? Because they got tough and mean and ugly. And they're now fighting quite literally in games. Whereas that's all this season has been. It was quite refreshing to watch some football being played from a set piece. It hasn't got to be the Arsenal way. You can actually make it pretty.
Yeah, training ground. I think Michael Carrick was giving Johnny Evans credit for the minutia and the detail for that goal for Mbuemo. Excuse me. Listen, I wish at some point, and I was looking through Bruno's post game interview when talking about Michael Carrick because he was one of the holdovers from Carrick's previous holdover on the backside of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and it was almost like I was listening to him talk about what Carrick, Steve Holland, Johnny Evans, everybody everyone else that's involved, what they've been doing. And again, we weaponize vibes and atmosphere and all this stuff. And, there's a huge benefit to being on the training ground for 5 days, 6 days a week for Manchester United with the singular focus of taking advantage of fatigue, mental and physical for teams that are playing in other competitions. Yeah. So I understand all that, which makes that much more of a reason why Manchester United should finish in the top 4 and have this run. Now I just think about all the points that were dropped for completely unnecessary reasons on the previous to Independence Day from Ruben Amorim. But as I'm watching all of these kind of little moments, I'm listening to Bruno, and I'm trying to pick through the seeds of whatever's left over to see if he's giving us little hints at what was wrong under Ruben Amorim. Because at some point, I would love to hear the insider, the canaries in the coal mines that are really singing about what was happening, because it feels like from these players, and there's an ownership and there's a responsibility, and I don't know where that lies. Was it Ruben Amorim and or the players that system, that style, that coaching didn't work versus how do you simplify it back to a 4-2-3-1? You put players in their natural positions. Now where you're watching Luke Shaw play at a really high level, you're seeing Harry Maguire in this kind of renaissance of 4 matches. You're seeing Kobe Mainoo be the Kobe Mainoo that he always was. I don't know why he was forced to compete with Bruno.
What's he doing? What?
I have a theory. I mean, I have a theory that Ruben Amorim had felt like because they bought Sesko and because they bought Mbomo, because they bought Cunha, he had to create a system where those guys were on the field all the time together. And that's why the shape and identity and the movement of Bruno was necessitated to that system, that 3 in the back, and this is how he was going to play it. But Michael Carrick's already made big decisions, right? He started Dorgu on the left. He put Cunha to the bench. Sesko's on the bench. And Mbomo's up top. Bruno's in the pocket as the 10 as usual. Ahmad's to his right. Casemiro, there's probably a freedom to his game right now because he's announced that he's leaving, so he can just go out and play, which he's been excellent in that partnership. So it feels like all the boxes are being ticked. I mean, even Dalot looks like he's making less knucklehead decision-makings on the right-hand side. Lamens, when you go back and watch the previous goal scorer, you're thinking to yourself, why in the world did we even go down this path with Onana in any way, shape, or form?
For ages.
So all of these things I think can be true. But again, I come back to these players are so smart, they can play in any formation that they're asked to play. They can do it.
Not well, apparently.
But they didn't play well under Amorim. So
I can make a bad cake. We can all make a cake.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And then when you give you the right ingredients to make a good cake, why are you making a good cake so fucking good? Sorry, Tim. So let's
stop trying to make sausage rolls out of sugar.
Let's just make one more good cake on Tuesday. Why don't we do that?
And so next time we're together, we'll know the result of this game. I would do some sort of hot sauce bet with you.
I don't want you to have a heart attack.
I physically can't do that right now.
You've got enough angina as it is.
I'm not allowed by my doctors to do that. Maybe we should do like a sweet vegan cream bet.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Loser down some sweet vegan cream, ladies.
What?
No, vegan, it's like a...
Sorry, Tim.
Oat milk. Would you like some oat milk cream?
I could do some oat milk.
Okay.
We'll think
of something, unless, of course, West Ham lose, in which case I won't do anything.
Or send in your submissions.
Well,
tag us
you know
on
what?
YouTube. Tag us on Spotify.
If it's an interesting game, we'll try and record something this week to review it. If it's interesting. If
we should probably try to do like a quick 15-minute. Yeah, we should try. Let's do it.
If it ends up 1-0 to Man United and nothing happens, I'm probably going to say no. But if we do win 1-0,
Tim and I might come on.
You and Tim, you and Tim could do one if Man United win. If West Ham win, we'll find some time.
Poor Tim, by the way, our resident Liverpool homer. Not as much gloating this year behind the scenes on Week in the Tackle.
He's actually gone as bald as Arne Slot as well, which is a shame. He began the season with Szoboszlai's hair, and now he's gone via Salah to Slot.
He's got a good head of lettuce. I mean, no James Rodriguez, but a good head of lettuce.
No, that's true. I can't believe you're nearing 50. I refuse to believe it. Not a single grey.
Oh, no, it's right there. It's all
but your actual, if you fresh clean shaved,
I've got a couple of flakes. No. I got a goblet now. That ain't happening. I did it during COVID, and my kid goes, Luca at the time, he was that 6 years ago? So he was 2. He goes, Daddy, put your beard back on. And that was the last time I shaved.
You should do them videos they do on like the TikTok, where it's like people with big beards go and show their wives for the first time and they leave them.
Yeah.
Things like that. That's how I met my
what
wife,
have you done?
Anyway. Yeah. Anyway.
With or without the beard.
Either way, she doesn't love me anymore.
Okay, wrap it up.
We're out of time. We are out of time. That's Brian Dunseth over there. I'm Tom Rennie. Tim Horsey produced the programme. The programme is called Week in the Tackle. If West Ham have won, we'll see you this week. If they haven't, we'll see you next week.